Welcome back to the Little 500, the men's 53rd running. Yesterday, the women's event in blustery weather. And for the first 50 laps, it was Team Kappa Kappa Gamma that was in control. But on lap 62, this crash took the Kappa rider out, and the team could never recover.
Yeah, you know, that crash just ended it for Kappa right there. After that, it was down to a two-person race.
And the person that caused the crash wasn't even a contender. And then on the final lap, this is how it unfolded. For Kappa Alpha Theta in the orange, Nicole Vincent made a pass against Katie Zeller of Roadrunners, the defending champions. And at the finish line, the checkered flag for Kappa Alpha Theta and Nicole Vincent, with a beautiful smile and an exultant finish, takes it for her team.
She demonstrated quite a bit of race savvy there. In tactics, you can't beat what she did. That's exactly what you want to do. You want to come out of turn 2, turn it up and take the line. Kappa Alpha Theta, I think that might have been their 3rd win. They have a great tradition, and that's where tradition comes into play.
Roadrunners 2nd and Kappa Delta in 3rd. And you see Kappa Kappa Gamma wasn't even in the top 10. And the men now are at the halfway point. They have made 100 laps, and in the yellow, it's Corleones, which has been the team that has really controlled the pace for most of this race. Corleones, the defending champions, with 4 seniors riding here and 4 great veterans who were all on the winning team a year ago. They're about to make an exchange.
We're going to see Dodds House and it looks like just Dodds House is going to come in for an exchange. I think that's Craig Lukens getting off the bike. Good exchange.
The exchange is such a critical part of this event. Again, it's 200 laps, 33 teams racing here. Each team has 4 team members, all men, and they must exchange at least 10 times during the course of the race. Well, ACR Cycling may be the official leaders, but your 3 commentators here, veteran of this event, Jason Sonneborn, a 2-time All-Star rider and a veteran of the U.S. Postal Service team, Casey Dillon, seem to think that the real team to watch is Corleones, or perhaps the team in gray, Gafambi.
I like a couple teams. I like Corleones. I like Gafambi. I like the way Team Major Taylor's riding that right now as well. And then Phi Gamma Delta, our team in green, the pole sitter, the team that qualifies first, gets to wear the green jersey. And the team that wins last year, the Corleones, they're wearing yellow. I like all those teams. I think Acacia's riding well also.
Hey, but check out who's tucked in there on the 4th wheel.
Oh, it's the Cutters.
That's right.
The Cutters with the red, yellow, and green. And they've been riding a pretty savvy race. They are almost never off the front pulling.
That's right. They're right where they need to be. They're at the front of the race, but they're not using up any energy.
The Cutters are coached by some very knowledgeable guys. They're coached by Jay Paulsgrove, who won the race 2 times in the 80s, and then Jim Kirkham, who also helps out. And they only have 3 guys today, and they might not be the strongest 3 guys on the track, but that's another example where coaching comes into play.
And we have a crash on turn 3. Looks like he maybe just spun out. Fortunately, it wasn't a big crash.
That's where those bike handling skills come into play.
That's right.
Let's talk about the fact that Cutters has only got a 3-man team. If they're really strong, that could be good, or what's the problem as we look back again at that crash, which took place with some riders who are really not contenders here. Of course, we don't want any of the riders to crash.
What can happen, Greg? You mentioned the 3-rider factor. The more tired guys are, the more you're looking down. You know, you're not paying attention. You're not as aware. If you only have 3 guys, you might be riding more laps. You might tire more easily, and that's where you could see an accident. You could see someone sitting in the back of the pack trying to rest, or you could see a botched exchange, because that takes concentration too.
The other thing about Cutters is they've got 2 riders who haven't been in this event before. They're 2 rookies on this team.
They're 2 rookies. One of the guys actually I know very well. 2 of them are from Bloomington, Indiana, so they're locals. They're true mythical Cutters, as they say in Breaking Away. Jason Smith comes from a running background and great athlete. If you look, he's got a great physique for cycling, and he's a rookie, but he's a very strong rider. Nick Peugeot is a guy that's ridden a couple years. He's got the experience. He worked in a bike shop growing up when he was a teenager. He's a guy that's been doing it for a while. He's the leader of the team, and Cutters a pretty impressive performance so far.
Well, they're in the red, yellow, and green, the Cutters.
We call that the Jamaica colors.
The Jamaica colors.
That's what we call it.
Very good. Now the pace seems to have slowed just a little bit here. Again, the teams that we're watching most closely: in the green, Phi Gamma Delta; in the black, Team Major Taylor; in yellow, Corleones; in gray, Gafambi; and then in the Jamaican colors again, the red, yellow, and green Cutters.
And that's Sigma Pi on the front. I don't feel like I've given them enough credit today. They're riding a really strong race, and that's Jason Mount up front leading for them. As you see the Cutters rider swing around, looks like he might be going in for an exchange, and they're on the back stretch. This could be something to watch. As the Cutters rider, that's Nick Peugeot. He's going to have to get a gap. I'm sorry, that's not Sigma Pi. That's Alpha Tau Omega marking his wheel. But let's watch this exchange. He's got a little gap, and let's see how smoothly it goes.
Nick Peugeot, who is going to yield the bike, turn it over, is a psychology major. And they're using some pretty clever psychology in this race. Make a nice exchange, it looks like.
The Cutters really do have a great tradition, and one of the things that they do very well is they log in lots of miles in the fall and in the winter just around Bloomington, which is a great place to ride. I can remember one of their coaches telling me their goal on a lot of their rides, they send their guys out and they want them to find a new road every day. So when they're out doing their 60, 80, 100-mile rides in the fall, building those base miles, go and find a new road, guys.
Alex Harrington from Carmel, Indiana, is the Cutter now in the third position. Gafambi right next to him in the gray. Then it's is it Major Taylor? Yes, it's Major Taylor. Number 2, the black. Is that Dog's House?
It's ACR Cycling in red, and then Phi Delta Theta in the lighter blue color sitting third. They're also up there on the lead lap. I was wrong. The team in the blue and white, that's ATL. It says Taos on their thigh, and they're riding a really strong race right now.
Well, they're on lap 110, 90 to go. And we're over 1 hour now, 1 hour, 8 minutes into this race.
And the pace seems to really be picking up. At times, this is kind of where it picks up. At times, they're going over 25 miles an hour. And again, that's a lot of the tactics coming into play, because Gafambi wanted to come out for an exchange. Corleones marched through a wheel. They weren't going to give him any advantage, any leg room.
No, did you see that? He almost lost it coming into turn 1.
Yeah, we should explain that again for race fans who just joined us. When you're going to make an exchange, you try to get out in front of the rest of the leaders by 30, 40 yards or more if you can, so that when you make the exchange and you slow down, when your new rider comes back out, they're joined right back in. But if you can't get off the front, then they might cancel the exchange.
And again, the Corleones rider, he marks the Gafambi rider, and then he does one more lap and brings it in the pit to exchange for a new rider.
But look what's going on here. The bunch is totally exploding. Corleones rider is really turning the screw, and it looks like we have ATO trying to close the gap.
That's Phi Delta Theta. That's Matt Ewing coming off the front. It looks like he's going to come in for an exchange, trying to get his burnout, trying to get his gap. He's got a nice little one. He's got a good spin going. This is really where strategy comes into play, because you trigger off other teams, you trigger off how well you feel at different times. You try to get a good feel for it, but so many things are getting going on. It's tough to always pay attention to.
Well, there they are. Phi Gamma Delta in the green, in the yellow, it's Corleones. And in the black, Major Taylor. And those three teams all started on the first row. They have not yielded an inch throughout the hour and 10 minutes that they've been racing here.
That's kind of funny, Greg, because you'll cover 50 miles and you might win by inches. As Dylan knows, you could cover 160 miles, you might win by inches. It's maybe where it looks to me as this might come down to a sprint, and that's where your acceleration really matters.
That's right, and I'm sure that's going to be a key factor in the final as far as selecting which rider you want to be out there for those final few laps when you're coming down to the finish.
I had a chance to talk to a lot of these teams before the race, and the Gafambi, the team in gray, they have John Grant, who is the best sprinter in the race. So they wanted to come down to a sprint. They wouldn't mind a couple teams being on the lead lap and coming down to a sprint. My opinion of the Corleones is that they're more of a time trialist team. They broke away last year with over 20 laps to go, and they won on their own. They won with no one else even around them. So that's where tactics come into play. Each team wants a different scenario to happen at the end.
That's right. And if you have a really strong sprinter on your team, you don't really want to force the pace, but you want to kind of make sure that you stay with the other teams that are trying to force the pace. So you kind of sit back, relax, save your energy, and it all comes down to the last lap.
Well, let's check in now again with Anne-Marie Bonas. Anne-Marie?
Thanks, Greg. Well, I'm here in one of the smaller cheering sections, but it's for the Cutters, the namesake team for breaking away. And, you know, guys, obviously the Cutters are still in it. They're 5 or 6 in the pack, I think, right about now. Is it possible for a number 5 or 6 team to turn it around and pull off number 1?
Oh, no doubt about it. There's still 10 teams all on the same lap, so any one of them can pull it out.
And obviously, Cutters has a lot of hometown tradition here, good tradition, long-standing tradition. People feel really closely tied to this team, if nothing else because of the movie, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the movie, I think, is going to be about 25 years old, so it's 25 years of local fun.
Absolutely. Well, the Cutters fans still hanging in there and cheering their team on, so we'll throw it back to you guys.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. The Cutters rider out there now is Alex Harrington, and he is riding well. You know, I think back to the movie, one of the Cutters was Dennis Quaid.
That's right, that's right.
Who went on to, at that time when he made the film, it was, you know, just a young actor. No one knew much about him. He's become a great star.
Yeah, and from what I hear, he still rides a bike.
Well, that's the thing about cycling. Once you get started, it can really get in your blood. You just love the sport. So once again, Corleones setting the pace.
Well, you know, you see what's going on here is Corleones has a huge gap. And it looks like they're getting ready to set up for an exchange, but I'll bet their coach is going to wait and decide whether or not to change.
They're off the front right there. That's our leader. Corleones in second, just so you know. That's a move. That's a move.
So it looks like we have an exchange going down, but also up the road is Sigma Pi.
Well, Sigma Pi has suddenly made their move. And they are in the yellow with the gray side, Sigma Pi.
It's yellow and blue.
But yellow and blue, yellow and blue.
Let's see if we can get a camera shot on them. Actually, we're seeing the lead pack as they're chasing furiously right now. They know Sigma Pi's up the road, and they want to get together with Sigma Pi, team number 22 off the front.
Oh, almost a crash there. But Jason, you know, up the road a little bit, it looks like the Corleones rider is going to hook up.
So we have with the team in yellow on Corleones, they're going to catch up to Sigma Pi, and there's a significant gap right there.
So when you're coming around the corner, you got to be really careful because your front wheel, if it just washes out a little bit, you can hit the ground. Oh, and look, we had some contact there.
No clipless pedal, so he's fortunate enough to get that foot out and put it down, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there is Sigma Pi out in front of Corleones, and Sigma Pi, this rider is Jeff Wright, and he is a 2-year veteran of the event. But Sigma Pi has never won this race in 43 years of trying.
They have a good chance this year with a lot of experienced riders. And what they decided at some point in time is they wanted to be off the front with the Corleones, and that's a pretty good team to be off the front working with.
So where have they been up to now? Just kind of tucking it in and being cool about it all?
We haven't noticed them much, and I don't think much of the pack has either, but they've made a good move. And now it's Corleones all by themselves as Sigma Pi tries to catch up. Let's see what happens. This is a lot where you have to decide as a rider in the pack, do I go chase the Corleones right now?
Well,
as you can see them, they're all working, they're all jostling.
You know, Jason, I just peeked down into the pit, and the Corleones riders are just yelling and screaming at their guy to keep going. He's got a good gap.
He's got a quarter lap.
Yeah, he's got to keep the power down.
Well, ACR Cycling in the red tried to get the rest of the pack to move forward. Again, 3 or 4 riders can move much faster than a single rider if they work together.
Yeah, that's right. You know, when you have 2 or 3 riders working together, you go a lot faster than you do by yourself.
Corleones coming in for an exchange. Will they have gained something here?
Let's see, was it all for naught? Are they going to get back in the pack? Is he going to accelerate off the front? Let's see if he can establish a gap.
Gafambi right behind at this point, and he doesn't want to let him go. Behind Gafambi, is Cinzano.
This is great. This is bike racing where the Gafambi rider knows, hey, I need to be right up there on that wheel. I think that's Jason Fowler on the bike for Gafambi in gray. He's closing the gap on Chris Urk and Corleones in yellow.
You know, if I'm sitting third wheel behind Gafambi and the Corleones just did a big effort, the Gafambi guy just did a big effort, I bet these guys slow down just a little bit eventually. That's when I throw down my attack.
You're exactly right, Dylan. And that's the purple team. That's Acacia. But they're not slowing down right now. They're keeping the pace really hot. And as you can see, Corleones is off the front again.
They are. These guys really want to go.
Like I said, they want a time trial. They want to be off the front. They don't want it to come down to a sprint.
No.
No, if they have to race against John Grant, they're going to have trouble. They've got to get some space here between themselves and everyone else.
That's a good point, Greg. John actually dominated the series events this year. He won all 3 of them. So he's a strong individual. The unique thing about Little 5, it's a team event. It's 4 people out there. And the Corleones, excellent example of that as they're pushing the pace, the team in yellow.
Well, look what's happening in the bunch right now. These guys are looking over the shoulder. That's never a good sign, but it's a great sign for the Corleones rider because that means everybody in the bunch is slowing down. See, look at them. They're kind of looking around. Hey, you pull. He's getting a little flick of the elbow. Meanwhile, the Corleones rider is making up time and getting up the road. This is a great move.
And this rider here pulling out to the front now is on a bike where the seat post is far too low, and he's going to have trouble having a smooth push as he tries to make some. And we're doing some quick changes now for Corleones, quick exchanges. That was just 2 laps as they start lap 125.
You'll see this when a team makes an effort, when a team tries to attack and maybe get an advantage on the rest of the guys, they'll shorten the sets. They'll do 3 to 4 lap sets, maybe 6 lap sets. When you're out there and you're just in the middle of the pack, you're doing 10 to 15 lap sets. So there's the contrast. When you're trying to make a move, you're going to exchange often, and you're just going to try to get the advantage. And the goal is to either lap the field or go with a couple other riders.
Just 75 laps remaining in this 200-lap event, the 53rd running of the Little 500 here at Indiana University. Inside Bill Armstrong Stadium, 33 teams going for glory in this, the greatest intramural event in American colleges.
So it looks like everything's back together, and the Corleones rider is signaling for some of the other riders to come up and do the work. But, you know, that probably softened everybody up for a little bit later down the line. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think so. And it's going to take a toll on the other teams. As Corleones, since they know they got 4 guys, right? Dan hasn't probably ridden as many laps. Dan Burns, the guy on the bike right now, he probably hasn't ridden as many laps as the other guys. He might settle in and then counter again, attack off the front. As you see, ATOs pick it up right there down the front stretch. Looks like he's either trying to establish a gap for an exchange or get away off the front. You see a lot of guys do that. The goal is, you saw him stand up out of the saddle. As you know, as a track cyclist, when you want to accelerate, you want to be up in the seat. So that's what you'll see happen.
Yeah, that's right.
But Dan Burns of Corleones is not letting anybody get away from him. The interesting thing about this is Corleones has got 4 seniors. They're the defending champions, and they can all ride really well. So they've got to work together as a team constantly. They're the team story. Whereas others, Team Major Taylor, well, they also have a solid team now. They're the team in black. They're riding a little bit quiet in 3rd or 4th position. They're tucked in most of the time. But John Grant on Gafambi, he's the superstar for the team wearing the gray.
And what I don't like if I'm Gafambi is I've seen John Grant on the bike a lot. And this is a warm day. Fatigue could come into play. Cramps could come into play. The more laps he does, the less fit he is, the less acceleration he has at the end. So he's logging a lot of laps because he's their best rider. He's the guy that they need out there to keep it together.
You know, that's right, Jason. These guys don't have water bottles on their bikes either, so they don't get to eat or drink when they're out there. So that's definitely going to play a factor.
And let's not forget about Sigma Pi also in the yellow and blue. They're right up there on the official scoreboard. They're in 2nd place at this point behind Corleones. We haven't talked about them too much.
You know, I think that just goes to show you that sometimes there's a couple of the teams that are sitting back and making some of the other riders do the work. But we just saw the Sigma Pi rider off into the gutter.
Yeah, there was a big wreck. There was a big wreck.
2.
So Sigma Pi, this may cost them the race here.
Let's see if we can get that. He's on the backstretch right now, and that was a team on the lead lap that was riding well not too long ago.
Yeah, Corleone's out front. Here they are.
That's Sigma Pi. That's Sean Harless. He looks like a look of despair as he knows his day could be over.
Yeah, you know, that might be it for the Sigma Pi team.
Right, from second place, one accident. This is like we saw with the women's race with Kappa Kappa Gamma controlling until lap 62, and then they had a crash, never could get back into the top 10. At this point, if you lose a half a lap here, 200 yards, virtually impossible to catch back on.
And we'll see a reaction from the group. This might be where Phi Delta Theta, Phi Gamma Delta, Corleones in yellow, they got to react. They got to decide whether Sigma Pi, are they worth pushing the pace right now and trying to get rid of? Because what they'll try to do is now lap Sigma Pi, who went down in that last wreck. I'm really surprised at how this race is shaped up. I didn't expect this many teams to be on the lead lap. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a really exciting finish. It looks like a bunch sprint. You know?
I think you're right, Jason. I think we're in store for a pretty spectacular finish coming up here. There's 70 laps to go, so we still got quite a bit of bike racing here.
70 laps to go. Each lap is just a little bit over 30 seconds, so we got about 40 minutes of racing here. At what point does the endurance really become a factor? A lot of teams can ride hard for 100 laps or maybe 150, but at some point, isn't there going to be a moment of truth?
Endurance is going to be a factor, and I can't read minds, but I really think the Corleones are going to make a move. Maybe you've seen it happen in the past. They might make a move with 20 laps or 30 laps to go, where they do try to get an advantage and keep it stick. The other teams, as far as endurance goes for them, they want to keep their sprinter rested. You might see the other teams, like you might see John Grant, who's accelerating right now, get off the bike and not get back on until lap 192. That's ideal. That's what you want to have happen.
Gafambi pushing the pace right now. And as they go off the front, let's check in again with Anne Marie. She is with the riders or the supporters of Team Major Taylor, the team in all black, and they've been pretty quiet so far in this race, Anne Marie.
That's very true, but their fans are quite rowdy out here. They're keeping the spirit up. Do you guys think that you still have a chance to pull this off?
Of course we have a chance. It's never over. It's never over. It's never over.
Never over.
Never over.
There you go. These guys are sticking it out to the end. The spirit's not dying down, so we'll throw it back up to you guys.
Well, Team Major Taylor supporters are obviously believing in their group. Team Major Taylor is in the black.
And he's riding in pretty good position. It's nice to be on the inside, and it's nice to be drafting. If I'm his coach, I'd like to move up just a little bit. You don't want to be 6 or 7 back because wrecks can't happen. But I think they're riding pretty strong. And we haven't seen them off the front. We haven't seen them up front doing much work, so they could be well rested.
This is Kenneth Burgess, a pre-law student from Los Angeles, California. You know, this is an interesting team. They've got riders from as far away as Trinidad and Tobago. They got a rider from New York. They are a really diverse group.
You know, I think a lot of the Major Taylor riders have very good finishes. And I like the way that they've just been kind of sitting in there, relaxing, staying near the front, staying out of trouble. They're thinking about the last lap.
A lot of the guys, I think they might ride track too, which transfers really well over to Little 5 because it's only one gear. I think Simeon Commission, he might be their sprinter today. I think he comes from a track background.
Absolutely, and the riders from Trinidad and Tobago, I've been there before, and they take track racing very seriously down there, and I bet you that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Let's talk about where this name Major Taylor comes from.
Well, there's a velodrome, and there's a velodrome named after the rider, but Major Taylor was actually the most prominent bicycle racer in the early 1900s. He was an African-American cyclist from Indianapolis, and in 1898 he became the first black world champion in any sport outside of boxing.
So they're respecting his name and his tradition here by calling their team Team Major Taylor, the team in black with the number 2. Riding a pretty savvy race, and just off of the right shoulder there of Kenneth Burgess is Cutters again. And this is the way it is officially on the scoreboard. Gafambi, Acacia, Corleones 1, 2, 3 at this point. But again, they are so close to one another in the pack. I mean, just less than a second apart.
And just for the fans at home, so we know what's going on. The team in red, that's ACR Cycling. They're up front. I think they're still on the lead lap. Gafambi, the team in gray behind them, they're still on the lead lap. And the teams to really watch, I like to watch Gafambi gray and Corleones yellow. And as you can see, the Phi Gamma Delta rider out on the outside in green.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a lull before some action comes up. I'm predicting somebody's going to throw down here pretty soon.
You got to, and there goes Dan.
Yep.
It's a little bluff.
Yeah. He wants to see who else wants to play. He's like throwing out an invitation to a party. He wants to find out who's going to show up.
Again, this is where tactics come down, because I don't think Dan's going to be the sprinter. And yet he's one of the strongest guys out there on the track. So he's out there in the middle laps. His job might be to try to get an advantage. Whereas Gafambi, their strongest rider is also their sprinter. And
right.
He's in the pit right now. He's not going to be out there, John Grant. He's not going to be out there when Dan makes this move.
No, you're right. And I think the Corleone's rider, they want to soften everybody up.
That's Mike Rubin on the bike right now for John Grant. Even though you see the even though you see the John Grant promo on the bottom.
And here goes Corleone's up the side.
This is kind of interesting to note, because what Dan did, he slipped back in the pack a little ways,
got
out of notice, and then you see him come up front and accelerate right away. That's how you do it. You don't attack from the front, right, Dylan? You attack from the back.
Absolutely. You want to catch everybody when they're not looking.
So there's Dan Burns of Corleone's pushing the pace again. Corleone's has been either in the lead or in perfect position throughout. They make an exchange, and the exchange is to Luke Eisenbarger.
Man, that's got to be hairy when you're exchanging right next to another team that's exchanging. I mean, if something happens, you're right there, you're going down.
Yeah, and there, as you saw right there, it was Corleone's and Phi Delta Theta exchanging at the same time. That's where communication comes into play.
Yeah. Man, I have a lot of respect for these guys being able to make those exchanges. They're tired. They're trying to get back on the bike as fast as he can. Looks a little bit to his left, and, you know, here's another rider trying to make an exchange. He's got to be really careful not to crash right into him.
And it's all the hard work that these guys do that allow them to do it today, because, you know, they spend months and years, you know, practicing this.
Yeah.
And on spring break, what you try to do, you try to go somewhere warm, right? You got to get away from Indiana, so you go down to Florida, you go to Texas, you go to San Diego, find a gravel little section road or some sand.
Right.
You find a place where you can actually do an exchange and skid in on your coaster break.
You know, I think these guys make it look easy, Jason, because I'm telling you, these exchanges are really hard to do.
But Dylan, I got to ask you, because, you know, something that you know how to do is attack, and I'm sure you've been involved in a couple attacks in your day.
Sure.
If Corleone's attacks, what are you thinking when you go? Because it's all about suffering at that point.
Yeah, you know, if Corleone is going to throw down an attack and I'm one of the riders on the other teams, I might be thinking about just following him enough so that when he is tired, when he's throwing his attack and I'm right on his wheel, as soon as he kind of looks up or slows down a little bit, I'm throwing it down right there.
Nice exchange by Major Taylor. We're at lap 141. Just about a half hour of racing to go here at Bill Armstrong Stadium in this 53rd running of the Little 500. The tactics are getting hot and heavy. It'll all unfold when we return to the Little 500. Almost every town in the Midwest has a beautiful town square, but only one town in the Midwest has the Little 500. Bloomington, Indiana, running here of the 53rd Men's Little 500. We started about an hour and a half ago. It's a 200-lap race, 50 miles, 33 teams, 4 men per team, and so far the race has been very tight for 4 teams. Corleone's, Gafambi, Phi Gamma Delta, Cinzano all up there. Also Team Major Taylor playing a big factor. Greg Lewis along with Jason Sonnenborn and Dylan Casey, along also with our field reporter here, Anne-Marie Bonas, as we bring you the last 54 laps of this race. We will be 3/4 of the way through this 200-lap race in just about a minute and a half. And in the yellow there, it's Team Corleone's. Continues to be the team that is really driving the race.
Absolutely. These guys just want to be on the front all day long. And I think their tactic is, 1, we're going to stay out of trouble. 2, we're going to make the race and really cause some pain out there. And then 3, we're going to set it up for the final and take home that big trophy that everybody's looking at down there.
Corleone's 4 seniors, won it last year. Jason, when does Corleone's have to make their move so that they can get away from Gafambi, which has the strong sprinter? You're the coach. What are you saying to Corleones? They can't be just a few yards in front of Gafambi when we get into the last lap.
They're coached by a guy that's just as knowledgeable as I am, Bill Noss, and I'm not sure what he's saying. But if I'm the team Corleones, I'm thinking it's about time to do it. You need at least. You've seen it done at all stages. Last year, I think they won at like lap 168. So we might see a repeat of that today, or at least the effort, the effort to go at lap 168.
Yeah, you know, these guys definitely came into the race with a script, and they're following it to the T right now.
So, something to take note of, Alpha Tau Omega, the team on front, blue and white, they're riding a really strong race today as well. They're on the lead lap as Acacia pulls through on their left.
Well, there's a lot of teams in contention still.
And that's what's going to make for an exciting finish. It is. So it's great to watch in a bike race. One team off
we have
front.
A crash coming out of turn 2. Looks just like one rider went down.
And not a rider on one of the teams that's in contention here. Now we got a little move going on. Are we going to have an exchange? No. We got the Cutters off the front.
Yeah,
right behind is Corleones.
Looks like we just had one rider go down out of turn 2.
Yeah, he's going to be scrubbing cinders out of his legs tomorrow. It's not going to be much fun.
And there goes Corleones. The Cutters rider can't stay with him.
Well, you know what I think's going on here is the Corleone is trying to bridge that to the Cinzano rider, who's actually off the front right now. And if these two guys hook up together, I think this is the race right here. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, this looks like a significant move. Cinzano's another independent team, and they have something good going right now. Team number 7 on the inside, you can see him hugged up against the gutter.
Corleones comes in for an exchange, and it's a good one.
That's Corleones, and actually up from them is Cinzano. Let's see if Corleones can get back together with Cinzano.
Oh, we have a crash in turn 2.
I think those teams were a couple laps down.
And we have a hurt rider in turn 2
and we got some more riders going down. All right, here comes the yellow flag. So, Jason, yellow flag's out. What are we going to do now?
Before they bring the yellow flag out, you try to get as much ground as you can. And as you can see, Cinzano and Corleones are off the front a little bit. Once they bring the yellow flag out, you're not allowed to improve your position to the leaders.
So it looks like some riders were getting tangled up there. But it's not over yet, because the pack is going to come around here.
Yeah, Corleone sneaks to the inside. Yep. There's their rider. And we got one rider down who can't get out of the way.
So many things come into play here right now. And these guys are cruising along. They're the leaders, but there's someone laying in the middle of the track.
Yeah, that's going to leave a mark. Ooh.
And people at home are liking that. I've actually gone down on this track, and it's not much fun.
No, and it looks like we have a rider hurt. I hope he's going to be all right.
Now, this rider could be fairly seriously hurt. He had to be carried off the track. And, of course, being tended to officials now. And, you know, it goes without saying that we...
So, Jason, the Cinzano rider and the Corleones rider have a gap. There's a gap between them, and then there's also a gap between them and the peloton. So did they get to maintain that gap, or did they all bunch back up together?
No, they maintain their gap, and this is kind of where a lot of tactics come into play, because you have Cinzano and you have Corleones off the front. As soon as it goes green, accelerate, and all their coaches are telling them the same thing. You accelerate and you try to gain some more advantage.
Now, Phi Delta Theta just made an exchange during the yellow. It would seem like this might be a good time to make an exchange, because the pace is slowed down. It'd be easy to get back on.
You can do that, and you're going to see him. You're going to see the Phi Delta Theta rider try to get back up for where they came out of the pack. And what it is, it's a slow exchange. It's kind of a chance to rest because they are under yellow right now.
Is this rest going to have any effect on the tactics that Corleones might have had? Okay, the rider is up. It's from team number 5, team number 15, Fratello.
That's good to see. Luckily, we got a lot of people down there helping him out as he's going to get in the tent.
Yeah, you know, I've got to give some props to the promoter and the organization of this event. It's really a top-level event here. And, I mean, to see that kind of support and everything in the organization is fantastic.
The rider is Yusuke Izumo, and it's good to see that he is...
So that's the Corleones rider you're looking at right now in yellow. Cinzano is actually up ahead of them right now, and they're the leaders. Cinzano's in the blue jersey. And as soon as this goes green, this is when it's going to get exciting, because you're going to see the race go green. You're going to see those two teams off the front just accelerate and try to drop the hammer right away.
Well, only 45 laps remaining.
Looks like we're going to get a green here soon. We're still under yellow. Oh, here we go. There's a green flag.
And the Cinzano rider doesn't notice.
He's not looking, not paying attention.
The Corleone's rider saw it.
That's right.
I mean, you don't. That's the last thing in the world.
You know what, though?
Happen.
You know what? That might have been a good idea because now the Corleones and the Cinzano rider together, they can work together.
And the pack is furiously trying to catch up with them as you see Phi Gamma Delta and Green trying to catch. We have a lot of experienced guys on the bike right now. Adam Shields is on the bike for Phi Gam, and that's Clint Seal on the bike for Corleones. This would be fun to see how it plays out.
We got a penalty flag, it looks like.
We do. We have a penalty flag. Well, there's a lot of action unfolding now. Corleones and Cinzano still off the front.
Yeah, it's really hitting the fan. As you can see, Cinzano and Cutters off the front, kind of motoring. They know they got a gap, and it's time to go. Look at those guys' motors. Cinzano, this is where you put your head down and you just go.
That's right.
Cinzano and Corleones trying to break away from the rest.
That's
coming up strong. It's Gafambi in the gray and Phi Gamma Delta in the green.
You know, Gafambi and Phi Gamma Delta are working together to bring back the Corleones and the Cinzano rider. So, you know, that's another example of how teams kind of work together.
You're going to see it pulled back, and what I really like right now, if I'm the Acacia rider, if I'm the Team Major Taylor rider, right now Phi Gamma and Green and Gafambi did a lot of work to pull them back. If I'm sitting 3 or 4 deep, this is where the counterattack comes into play. And as you can see, Acacia in purple, making me look good.
Here we go.
Go
Here we go. Yeah, he's going to throw it down right there.
Making me look good. I like
and Major Taylor is going to follow.
This is where fatigue comes into play because a lot of the guys are tired that just got done doing the work, and now Acacia's off the front, dropping the hammer.
That's right.
Acacia has 3 victories, 61, 83, and 91. Last year finishing in 8th place.
They're going to come in for an exchange. And actually, an interesting note about Acacia, they're coached by Tom Schwegler, who won the race with Kappa Alpha Theta yesterday. So a great coach, a great team.
Acacia exchange is a good one, and now getting on the bike for Acacia is Ryan Brown of South Bend, Indiana.
Great exchange by the Corleones. He's going to jump right in there at the back. Meanwhile, we've got Gafambi has a small gap, and the Cutters rider is going to make an exchange.
This is where it really gets interesting because a lot of these guys are tired. It's how many exchanges you're going to do from now until the end of the race. How many laps is your sprinter going to have to do? And this is John Grant getting back on the bike for Gafambi. They're getting a pretty good lead out.
John Grant's the man. He's the best sprinter in the pack by far. And he makes an exchange.
He's the man, but I don't know if I want to be doing laps right now at 160 if I'm John Grant. I'd like to be sitting on the trainer in the pit resting up for the sprint.
But, you know, Gafambi, he's tucked in there. He's just going to sit on for a little bit, I bet.
They're coached by Tom Collins, and hopefully Tom told John not to do much work when he's out there because it looks like it is going to come down to a sprint. Don't do much work, but yet keep it together.
That's right.
Pack's pulled along right now by Dodds House, a team with a lot of tradition. They won the race in '98. They're the best Resident Hall team as they come in for an exchange.
Good exchange by Dodds House. Phi Gamma Delta that qualified in the pole position was right up in front. Now Gafambi makes a move. And right behind Gafambi is Corleones in yellow. Gray, yellow, and green, key colors to watch. And so let's go once again with just 38 laps remaining and check in with Anne-Marie Bonas.
Hi, Greg. I am here in the stands, and it's kind of an interesting contrast that as things are heating up out in the pack on the track, it's also heating up a little bit in the stands, which is kind of crazy. Clothes are coming off. There's actually been several fist fights that have been pretty vicious. Cops have had to come in and break off. Food everywhere being thrown at people. These fans are not going to give up till the very end, no matter what team they're cheering for. So it's an interesting development up here as well. We'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Well, the cheering is just about to begin. We've got 37 laps to go, and there will be a crescendo of cheers from all of these teams, and the supporters of the leading teams are making their way to the fence to scream and yell and power on through their spirit, their leaders. A big, big crowd here for Corleones, the defending champions, and they're right at the start-finish line, all in yellow.
Yeah, you know, I just saw his coach, the Corleones coach, tell his guy, look, let's throw down an attack. So he attacked, looked back and said, hey, everybody's on my wheel. I don't want to have any part of this. So he sat back up, and we're going to see the pack come back together. He's looking around to kind of figure out what's going to happen now.
And you got a shot of the pit just a minute ago. That was Bill Moss on the left. He actually holds the record for the fastest lap out here on the track. So it's a guy coming back and coaching his team as an alumni. That's ACR Cycling and Red going out for an exchange. They're coached by Jet Tackberry, who won the race for them in 1999. And that was formerly Sigma Phi Epsilon.
So, Jason, did you guys ever fake like you're going to do an exchange and then do a little attack but then not exchange?
That's the goal. I would have liked to have done more of that if I had a stronger team. We were always top 5 finishers, but like I said, we didn't win. I've seen it done. In fact, I saw Cutters lap the field in the year 2000, and that's how they did it. I think they might have followed somebody else out.
Because he had a pretty good gap coming into the coming out of turn 4, but it looks like he's going to make the exchange, and it's a great one.
ACR makes an exchange there. Team number 5. And now we've got just 35 laps to go, which means about 18, 19 minutes of racing.
And this is John right here for Gafami and Gray coming out for an exchange. He's going to get off the bike. He's going to go into the pit, get rested, have a cliff shot, and then get ready to go back out there for the sprint. He's coming in. This is going to be a bike-to-bike. This is kind of a key one to watch. Let's hope they don't mess it up. Good exchange, and that's Mike Rubin, their number 2 guy, getting on the bike. He's going to try to keep the pace high.
So Mike Rubin, he's going to want to keep everything together at this point and set it up for his sprinter, John.
Yeah, he's kind of the domestique right now, Dylan. He's out there. He's going to do some work and set it up for the sprinter. Sprinter might get on, lap 188. Currently, we're on 166 to give you some perspective. That looks like Team Major Taylor.
They're getting ready for an exchange.
They've had good gaps all day long. That can kind of give you an idea of who's the strong team and who's not the strong team.
That was pretty dirty.
Well, that was Julio German giving it up to Kenneth Burgess.
But really, that's where strength comes into play, because it's really easy to sit out there in the pack all day.
Right.
You can sit behind somebody, but where you show your power, where you show your strength, is when you get the gap. And when you want to get a gap, the ideal spot is to come from 3 or 4 back and then accelerate down the backstretch. There's Dan. Dan Burns in yellow for the Corleones, one of the better riders in the race today. Let's see a lot of things out of Corleones towards the end.
Yeah, you know, I think there's a couple teams out there that got their poker face on right now. They're not really showing their cards. You know, some of the other teams like Corleones and the Major Taylor team, they're really showing everybody like, hey, we're here to get down to business. We're the strong team. But I like some of the other teams, you know. If you look at the guys, the Cutter guys, I think they got something up their sleeves.
Cutters are riding strong, and they haven't done any work.
No, exactly. They're just kind of tucked in there.
Well, it's interesting, again, Cutters only has 3 riders on the team. 2 of them are rookies, 1 in his 3rd year of the race. So that they are performing this well, very impressive.
Absolutely.
Very impressive. And then it comes down to who's their sprinter. And I think Nick Peugeot might be their sprinter just because he's ridden a couple years. You want to have an experienced guy on the track at the end. You don't want it to have it be his first race and be stuck out there at the end. You want to have a guy that knows what's going on, that's seen it before.
That's right. You know, and there's a lot of pressure on those last few laps, and you don't want a guy that's going to crack out there.
Acacia pushing the pace now in the purple. Dodds House right behind, putting a little gap between themselves and Corleones and Gafambi.
Some of these guys are starting to show some pain in the face. I like that.
You like that?
That's right. That means this is a bike race. You know, these guys are really out there serious, putting it down.
And Dylan, you know, physical attributes, these guys are pretty close physically. But the thing that really separates them right now is their mental strength and their ability to suffer. Maybe who suffers the most or makes the attack at the right time. That's who's going to win.
Absolutely. You know, I used to call it eating bitterness. You know, when you're out there suffering and really enduring the bad elements and everything, I like to talk about eating bitterness. And I always thought to myself, the rider that can enjoy the sweet taste of bitterness is going to have the victory lap on the final.
Well, it's definitely a skill in cycling to know how to suffer, to overcome suffering, to not yield to that inner voice that says, oh, you are hurting, you are hurting.
And that inner voice comes out a lot when these guys are out riding in the rain in February, training for this event. And it comes out and says, hey, you know, I could be sitting inside where it's warm right now, but they're out logging the miles. They're getting ready for this.
That's right. This is where it all pays off.
And the great thing for these guys, we've been seeing shots from the stands all day, but these are 4 guys that are representing their fraternity, representing their dormitory, and all their best friends are sitting in the pit right behind them cheering them on. These guys are kind of like the elite bunch. They're the elite 4 out there representing their group.
Absolutely, you know, and the crowd, they're so loud and they're cheering everybody on, and that just, it makes, when you're a rider and you're out there and you hear your fans cheering you on, it just makes you push that much harder.
And what really gets me is, and you've done a lot of bike races in both the States and in Europe. I just don't see these many fans at a bike race in the States. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you don't see this very often. This is an incredible event.
Well, this incredible event is getting close to its conclusion. Just a little bit over 25 laps to go. We're 1 hour and 48 minutes into it. And we've got a field of about 4 or 5 teams that have been trading the lead, exchanging the front position throughout the almost 2 hours of racing. And now it comes down to who's got the endurance and who's got the smarts.
So Dylan, this would be interesting for me to ask you. I kind of know from my little 5 perspective when I would have liked to got on the bike at the end of the race. How many laps till the end of the race do you want to be on? How long do you want to be out there?
You know, I think if I was looking to win this race in the final, and I think about 10, maybe 12 laps. Because I think you want a little bit of time to do the exchange, because the exchange takes some energy. So you want to do the exchange, have some time to settle in, get relaxed, start thinking about how you're going to win, and then really get down to business. You got to, when you're out there in the final 10 laps, you have to picture yourself. You have to visualize what it's going to look like when you win that bike race.
And that's what the coaches are telling them to do all day. They're sitting there with their sprinter right now, and they're saying, visualize yourself winning. And the question is, at the end of the race, where do you go? And, you know, where do you attack, or where do you take the lead? And a lot of times you'll see them do it coming out of turn 2,
right,
on the back stretch before they get to the front stretch.
Well, it's Gafambi, Corleones, the Cutters, all right there. Team Major Taylor tucked in behind. And there are now just 25 laps to go in this 200-lap race. And everybody's got to be setting up their master plan now and being in the position to execute it. And the other thing that we haven't talked about too much today is the luck factor.
You know, you got to put yourself in the position to be lucky. That's what I like to think about it.
I like to say you create your own luck.
Yeah,
and the teams that are riding up front and getting their gaps all day long, those are the teams that I think are going to win.
That's right.
If you're riding at the back, it's really easy to say it was unlucky and I wrecked, but
that's right.
The real thing is you weren't riding up front.
Exactly. You know, we see, you know, Corleones, they're definitely on the front for the most part of this race, but, you know, they're putting themselves in a position to be lucky and to win.
That's Phi Delta Theta and Alpha Tau Omega off the front right now. Phi Delta Theta, he's looking under his shoulder. He's seeing who's on my wheel. He's really suffering, isn't he? If you take a look at him.
Oh yeah, that's the pain face.
And this is where the camaraderie, the team aspect of this comes on, because he's trying to take care of his next guy.
That's right.
He's got a rider. He's got one of his best friends in the pit right now, getting ready to hop on. He's taking care of him. He's going to get a gap and get off the front.
And here comes the exchange from Phi Delta Theta.
Great exchange.
Great exchange. You saw the Phi Delta rider hold his hands up in the air right there. You do that. You do that just to kind of signify that the exchange is over.
Team Major Taylor is setting up in the pits for an exchange. At what point do you think everybody will have had to have made their last exchange? We're at lap 178 now.
Lap 195 is too late to do it. You'll see the sprinters get on between lap 185 and lap 195. So anywhere from 15 laps to go to 5 laps to go. That's ideal. And then the teams that aren't as strong, the teams that don't have as much depth, their sprinter might have to log more laps towards the end. This is going to be exciting, though. I'm really pumped as a fan. I'm not out there anymore, so it's going to be exciting for me to watch and see how this unfolds.
Absolutely. You know, we have 10 teams on the lead lap, and they'll be going for the victory on the final. But Jason, what about these other riders in there? We have more than 10 riders in this bunch.
And that's what comes into play, Dylan. There's a lot of teams that are a lap down or so that are also up there jostling for position. If you're a lap or so down, you're really supposed to move out to the outside, but you'll see them fighting for position as well because they want to try to make up ground. Their goal, if you're a lap down, is to try to make up those laps or not go more laps down.
Gafambi, Gray, staying right on the gutter and trying to get a little distance as Gafambi gets ready to make an exchange at the start of lap 180.
And this is the fittest I've ever seen Dan Burns, the man in yellow, and that's Gafambi right there. Both of those teams are riding strong. Gafambi looks like they're going to come in for an exchange. That's Mike Rubin getting off the bike, and
Corleone's coming in as well.
John getting off the bike, John Grant getting on the bike. Both of our top teams, and Team Major Taylor did an exchange too. Team Major Taylor botched the exchange. As you see, the team in black right now, I'm not sure what happened. A rider came flying by, and then the other guy touched but didn't take off.
Well, that could be very detrimental for Team Major Taylor, which has dropped behind now by about 80 yards. And we look at that again for Team Major Taylor in black.
Oh, it's a confusion of having a lot of people in the pits right there. That's where communication comes into play. That was an unorthodox exchange. As you're supposed to come in on the right side, you saw the Team Major Taylor rider come in on the left to try to avoid the traffic. That's where a lot of different factors come into play here, and more riders doing exchanges in the pits is definitely a factor.
And traffic is going to be a factor here too. It's John Grant who's up for Gafambi now.
Yeah, John's on the bike for Gafambi, the team in gray.
And John Grant is the best sprinter in the field, but there are 19 laps remaining. Did he get on too early?
There's 19 laps remaining, and John's actually a good friend of mine. He's ridden a lot of laps today, so I feel for him right now. I know he's the best sprinter out there, but the more laps you log, the less kick you have at the end. I hope he's still got something left.
Gafambi in the gray, Corleone's in the yellow.
You know, as we get set up here for the finish, one thing to keep in mind is that if you're a sprinter, you don't want to be out in the wind in the final few laps. But the other thing is you don't want to be boxed in, because if you get boxed in by the other riders and then the sprint starts, you're out of luck. So you kind of have to balance those two things, and it's a really crucial positioning as far as coming into the final few turns.
We talk about a sprint. A sprint is not something that can happen 2 laps before. I mean, you can't sustain that pace. How early can somebody really go, do you think, Dylan? You know, you're the man who's the track rider.
Yeah, you know, I think really just coming out of turn 2 or 3, you have to be up to full speed by then, because by the time you come around the final corner for the finish line, that's as fast as you're going to get going.
So it's really only 300 meters at most that you can maintain a full-blown sprint.
That's right. That's right.
And something to remember, something about Little 5, you can't really pass on the outside in a corner. All right, you're going to see the attack. You're going to see the sprint happen on the straightaway. So it's right after they get out of turn 2. You'll see it all happen on the backstretch. They'll come across, they'll get the white flag with 1 lap to go. A lot of jostling, and then you'll see guys try to go down the backstretch. Most impressive sprint I ever saw was 1991 Pete Nover, who went on to a great cycling career, but he hit a wicked acceleration in that backstretch.
So another exchange by Team Major Taylor, and this time they pull it off cleanly, but they are still well behind. And again, everybody has to understand that this is just a 1-gear bicycle. Oh, crash on an exchange, but it didn't bother any of the lead riders. And this rider seems to be okay. You can only pedal so fast. I mean, you're only capable of so many RPMs.
Oh, and here's a replay of that crash. Looks like, oh, man.
The exchange is so critical with 15 laps remaining in this 200-lap event, the 53rd running of the Little 500.
That's Sigma Chi on the front right now, a team that we really haven't seen much on the front, but they're on the lead lap. They're going to also be a contender at the end. There's our big boys, Corleone's in yellow and John Gafambi in gray moving up to the front.
So I think what you're going to see at this point, and it really looks like the Gafambi rider's throwing it down. I mean, we got 14 laps to go, and if he's a sprinter, what do you think, Jason? I don't know if I'd be doing that.
I think they might be trying to make a move. You can see Gafambi pulling it hard down the backstretch, and that's Kevin Vanes of Acacia on his wheel. I'm not sure if it's Kevin, but that's Acacia on their wheel. Corleone's is quite a distance back in yellow. They're going to have to negotiate through a lot of traffic just to get up there with the leaders. This could be Gafambi's tactic. I think this is their move. They're going to come in for an exchange, and they know Corleone's is off the back.
A key exchange here for Gafambi. And it goes well. Gafambi puts Michael Rubin up, and he is a fourth-year man in this race, so he knows what it's all about with just 12 laps remaining.
And the interesting thing, Mike Rubin and John Grant were both in finals of Missing Out, which is the sprinter competition here. It's a series event before the race, so that shows they're both strong sprinters. We're not sure who the sprinter might be.
You know, I see two riders that are trying to sneak away off the front. They don't want to wait for a sprint. The two riders out the front are coming out of turn 2 right now, headed down the backstretch. So I think these two guys are going to work together. They're not waiting for a sprint. And if we pan back to the peloton, they're kind of slowing down a little bit.
So that's Acacia in purple tucked right behind. I'm not sure who it is in front.
Is that Fratello?
Are they on the lead lap? That's a good question.
It's Cinzano in purple, that's for sure.
No, it's Acacia in purple.
And it's team 15, and that is Fratello.
But they're not on the lead lap.
So they've only made 173 laps, so they're not a factor here. They're more than 15 laps behind the leaders.
And what Acacia did was tuck in behind that Fratello rider. Maybe they know each other, I don't know, but he was getting a good draft, and now he's got a huge gap on the field. He's got almost a straightaway.
Maybe he said, hey, listen, you take one lap really hard, I'm going to win the race, and we'll even it up later.
We'll go get a burrito.
That's right. He'll be buying.
He'll be eating a few thousand calories tonight after 2 hours of this.
So, I mean, Acacia right here, they're duking out. This is a straightaway. This is something, and this is lap 190, folks. So we got 10 to go. This could be the race.
Acacia has about a 70-yard lead over Corleone's. Acacia, team number 11 in purple. And you can see the gap here. Is it a gap that they can sustain? That's the question.
That's almost a full straightaway.
And there's the pack. There's Brad Davies at Dodds House. He sees what's going on. He's got to react. Acacia's going to come in for an exchange. Again, we're going to have to see if Acacia can hold a distance. It looks like they're going to get pulled back. That was a classic Acacia exchange as you see the rider come off the back of the bike. Corleone's also coming in Dodds House.
And there are just 8 laps to go, so these exchanges are probably the last for these teams. And have the riders that they've put up got the legs to do it.
Wow, this is really exciting. You know, we're really seeing how the exchanges are making a big difference. And here's Gafambi's really throwing it down right now, coming down into turn 3. And it looks like they're going to do another exchange.
And we've just crossed the 2-hour mark in this competition.
And we've talked all day about John Grant. Mike Rubin's going to get on the bike for Gafambi with 8 laps to go.
Mike Rubin up. And he also has 3 years of experience in this event. It's his 4th time. You can only ride it 4 years, no matter how many years it might take you to get the diploma.
And look, the Gafambi rider, he's throwing it down a little bit.
Mike looks strong, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Mike Rubin of Gafambi, 7 laps and a half to go for him. And the crescendo, the crowd begins to raise the level of its chants louder and louder. And as their riders come by the start-finish line in their pits, it is a pure scream. There is a din of support for these racers.
So I think I just saw the Gafambi coach tell his rider, I want you to take 2 laps as hard as you can. And he's going to come in and do an exchange with 5 laps to go, Jason. Can you believe that?
I think they're trying to get off the front. I think they know they have 2 guys. They know they have Rubin and Grant. They also have Fowler. I'm not sure who they'll use, but they got a gap and they're going to go with it. They're trying to win the bike race. This is an excellent effort. This is an excellent effort. As you can see him looking over the shoulder. If you're Mike right now, you know it's all on the line. It's years of training right here, and it could pay off. He's got to give it everything he's got.
You know, I just saw the Gafambi coach tell his rider, okay, 1 lap. Let's turn it on. 1 more lap.
So Gafambi trying to pull away. Gafambi about 70 yards, 80 yards in front of the other racers, and now they are beginning to move as a group.
And it's interesting to see. We've talked about Corleones all day. They're not up the front. They're not up at the front taking the poles, pulling it back. You can see the blue team Shinzano working, the orange team Dodds House working. They know they got to catch Gafambi to be in the race at the end.
Here comes the exchange.
John's going to get back on the bike for Gafambi.
John Grant, the big man, the big sprinter.
Boy, he set it up beautifully. It's going to come down to a sprint. That's
So
Dodds
it's
House on
Dodds
the
House
pole.
in the orange, in the purple. Acacia, here goes Corleones.
I think Corleone's getting ready to come in and do an exchange.
Corleones has got another rider up. Who will their last rider be?
That's going to be Luke Eisenbarger getting on the bike for him. This is his second year in the race. He's a strong kid. Let's see if he can finish it out.
There are just 4 laps remaining.
And something to note there, the Corleones rider didn't get a gap. Luke, the sprinter, he's going to have to chase. He's going to have to use a lot of energy with only 4 laps to go to catch back up with the leaders.
That's right, that's right. And look at John at Gafambi. He's just tucked in there on the 3rd wheel. He's already tasting the victory.
Corleones, the defending champions in yellow.
Corleones is moving up on the outside since the pack slowed down just a little bit.
And that's Dodds House on the front, too. Look for them. They're going to mix it up at the end. They got some experienced guys in Craig Lukens and Brad Davies. I think that is Craig Lukens, their sprinter on the bike right now. So we have Craig Lukens for Dodds House in orange. We have John Grant in gray for Team Gafambi. For the Corleones, we have Luke Eisenbarger, and he's in yellow. This is going to be exciting, Bill.
This is going to be exciting. Let me tell you.
3 laps remaining. 2 hours and 4 minutes elapsed in this 200-lap race. 50 miles. The 53rd running of the Little 500 is getting near an exciting and dramatic conclusion.
These guys have got 2 laps to go, and they're full of adrenaline right now.
Now it's 2 laps to go.
Well,
2 laps to go, and Dodds House is still on the front.
And John Grant is tucked in a perfect position to start a sprint. He's in that 2nd spot. Corleone's right behind. Major Taylor trying to make a move up on the inside.
this is where it gets really exciting. You see John looking over his shoulder, wondering where that Corleones rider is.
That's right. I like Major Taylor sitting right there in 3rd. He's going to go around the outside of Dodds House, right on Corleone's wheel.
Yeah, we could see a surprise.
But these guys are starting the sprint pretty early.
Okay, here comes the white flag. We're on the last lap.
And this is how John 1 minute missing out. He's leading it from the front into turn 1 and turn 2.
John Grant.
John Grant, he's going to come down the backstretch with a tailwind, and he's already up to full speed.
There he goes, and here comes
There goes
Major Taylor on the
Taylor.
outside, but they can't stay with John Grant.
They're all
Major
fighting
Taylor
for his
close. Can they make a move as they come around the turn? Tough to pass here. John Grant of Gafambi still in the lead. Right behind number 2, Major Taylor. Then it's Corleones
He's
in the
got it.
yellow. It's John Grant of Gafambi. Major Taylor second. In 3rd, it's Acacia, and in 4th, it is Corleones. They could not defend the title. John Grant does it.
From the front, Jason. He took it from the front. I like that. That's a beautiful victory.
Was Gafambi. A new team. Last year, their first year. They have never won before. They pick up a victory. John Grant, the accounting and finance major from Louisville, Kentucky, in his 3rd year in this race, proves the man with power as he has all year. The dominant sprinter, the dominant speed racer throughout the season of racing.
Hats off to them today. This is their first victory for Gafambi. John was actually Beta Theta Pi. They're not around anymore, so he represents an independent team comprised of Betas and what used to be a couple Delta Chi's, and they picked up a first victory. They have every reason to celebrate down there. Look at them as they go nuts.
Absolutely. What a great execution of the exchanges down there in the final 10 laps. I mean, that was just textbook.
Tactically, they got him on the bike. He stayed at the front. He tucked in. He rested a little bit as the Corleones riders had to catch up, and then you saw him. He let it out from the last lap. So a lot of confidence, a lot of confidence in his strength.
Yeah, and hats off to Major Taylor for making a gutsy move there coming out in turn 3.
they were going to wait till the end. Kind of as I mentioned to you earlier today, Dylan, it's really, you can't win the race out of turn 4, or you see it happen very rarely. So John strategically made a good move. He knew he was the strongest guy on the track, and he took it from 1 lap to go.
And there's Corleone's last year's winners. Today, the best they could do was 4th place. And a sea of people just swarming forward. Gafambi, John Grant. And John was on our show last night when we were with the women's champions after the women's race.
You're taking a look at the Sigma Pi team right there. It's, you know, a lot went into this, and their race slipped away on an accident. So, you know, as John Grant celebrates, there's a lot of teams, and this is a great thing about the race. You'll see the riders at this point go around, they'll celebrate, and they'll congratulate each other. I mean, it was a great year, a successful year, and a great finish to a bike race. Gafambi, our 2003 men's Little 5 champions.
And John Grant, the man of the weekend, the man of the day. So more than 20,000 here celebrating John Grant and his victory in this, the 53rd running of the Little 500. He has carved his place in immortality, winning this, the greatest of all collegiate intramural events.
Yeah, what an amazing finish, Jason. I can't believe it. I mean, they just pulled it off. That was an excellent execution of the exchanges, the tactics. They had everything set up perfect. And then to take it from the front on the last lap, I mean, that's a big move.
Yeah, and a lot of credit to their team for delivering, John, there at the end. Jason Fowler, Mike Rubin, they also did a lot of work. The 4th guy on that team is Brandon Hurry.
And amid all the frenzy, the exultation here, let's go back to Anne-Marie Bonas.
In the Gafambi pits, people are out of control with their excitement. They cannot believe that they've just taken their Little 500 victory. I'm here with one of the fathers of the Gafambi racers. How does it feel right now to have your son win?
I couldn't be happier. My son, John Grant, rode for this team. It's been 3 years. Last year they took a 2nd. This year they got the job done. I'd like to thank Mark Cuban for televising this. It's been really great to have that publicity. But anyhow, the Gafambi team, it took all 4. They had a good plan. It came through. It's a beautiful day here. And everybody loves Indiana University.
What do you think saved them at the end? What do you think pulled them through to be #1? There were a lot of people up at the end.
Well, they had to be very careful and make sure that they exchanged properly, stayed clean, and it's pretty warm out today, so they had to make sure they stayed hydrated, but their plan worked perfectly. The Corleones were excellent, and several other teams could have won it at the end, just a matter of who could gut it out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations to you and your son.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. We'll go back and take a look. Thank you, Anne-Marie. We'll go back and take a look at the final lap, and we can tell you that Mark Cuban, the man who's the founder of HDNet and an alumnus of this institution, Indiana University, couldn't be happier about this. There's John Grant off the front. Corleone's right behind. In the black, it's Major Taylor trying to come up and make a move. But John Grant peeks over his shoulder, and from there on, Jason and Dylan, it was all his race.
Yeah, he was wide open coming out of turn 2. I mean, he was already thinking about the finish line, and everything behind him was just, you know, he didn't care.
He opened up a little gap on the backstretch, and Team Major Taylor rider in black right there is looking strong, but like I said earlier, it's really tough to take a guy out of the turn 4.
Well, not only that, but the Major Taylor rider had to use up a lot of energy coming down the backstretch to move up from 4th into 2nd where he's at. Now, if he would have started the last lap on John's wheel, he might have had a chance.
And here goes John. He's not going to give up the inside. What you never do, you don't give up the inside. You push him outside.
That's right.
Team Major Taylor's out there right there into a headwind. At no point can he make that up right there.
Yeah, that's right.
John Grant powers his way to victory. The first victory for Gafambi.
Team Major Taylor takes 2nd. I think that was Acacia that nipped him for 3rd, and the Corleones get 4th.
I'm sure the Corleones have got to be disappointed after all the work that they put into this race and how much effort they put into really making the race from the front the whole day. But, you know, that's bike racing. It's like I said, the strongest team doesn't necessarily always win. It's the smartest team.
You're exactly right.
And there's the coveted trophy that goes to the champions. And the champions of the 53rd running of the Little 500 are Gafambi. And we'll return here to Bill Armstrong Stadium and Indiana University in the 53rd running of this, the Little 500, with some final thoughts right after this. The celebration continues on the infield of Bill Armstrong Stadium. Gafambi, in its second year in this race, is the team that has won the 53rd running of the Little 500. And John Grant, the man of the hour, has been celebrated by everyone here, hoisted upon their shoulders and carried around the track. More than 20,000 fans watch this glorious moment for Gafambi. And what's interesting about this, it's a celebration that's reminiscent of a Big Ten victory. Yet there is no real prize. There's no money. There's a trophy. It's all done for the love of the sport.
And that's the one thing that really makes Little 5 unique, Greg. I mean, these guys aren't getting paid anything. They're not on scholarships. In fact, they're here and they work hard just to represent their housing units well, just to represent their fraternities, or if you're an independent team, you're working towards that. But, you know, these guys aren't paid anything. And a lot of them go on to race professionally at the 1-2 level or whatever, but they're forced to kind of hold it back. They put it all out on the line all year long. They train for years, for months. John comes from a background. He was an Ohio State swimmer for a year, and then he came to Indiana University. As we know, swimmers transfer very well over to cyclists. He made himself into a cyclist, great athlete before, comes out and he wins the race.
Let's go down to Anne Marie.
Hi guys, I am here with Team Gafambi, the winners of this year's race. You guys raced hard. It was definitely a fight till the end. How do you feel right now?
It feels unbelievable. 3 years of hard work, 4 years for this guy, and it finally all worked out.
Number one, baby! I feel great. We knew we wanted John on the bike at the end, and we set it up and we executed it perfectly. He's our money man. He made it happen for us.
There you go. The celebrations are going on here. Gafambi is one happy team right now.
And Anne Marie is one happy announcer out there. Here's the key exchange as John Grant gets onto the bike. And if this had gone badly, it wouldn't have mattered how well he could ride, but it didn't. Their exchanges were great throughout the day.
Yeah, the key is Mike Rubin, the guy that got off the bike prior to that, delivered a gap. We were talking about all day. He got a gap. He got a good one for John, so John could hop right back on the front, you know, get a quick rest, and then win the sprint.
That's right. I think that's just a great illustration of how this is a team sport. It really comes down to the overall team, the coach, the strategy, how everything is executed, being in the right place at the right time. You know, these guys really did a great job today.
And it's loyalty and camaraderie with your teammates. You know, John had to know that Mike was going to get that gap off the front. He had to trust him, and it comes into play a lot with exchanges. It's the trust factor. It's knowing you're going to get a gap. It's knowing you're not going to wreck. It's repetition, but it's also trust and camaraderie and teamwork.
Yeah.
So what does this mean in the town of Bloomington, Indiana? Is John Grant a star now?
John Grant is a star now.
Does he own the town tonight?
So is Team Gafambi. He does. You'll see a group of people surrounding him at the bars tonight, and I don't know. He's feeling great right now, and I'm really happy for him just as a friend of his.
Well, here's the final results from this 53rd running of the Little 500. Team Gafambi takes the lead on the final lap. We're about 3/4 of the way around. John Grant with a brilliant sprint to the finish line holds off Team Major Taylor. Acacia finishing 3rd. Dodds House in 4th. Corleones is in 5th. We had thought Dodds House was Corleones was in 4th, but Corleones is in 5th. They were the champions from last year.
That's Phi Delta Theta in 6th. They're led by Matt Ewing. I'm sorry, it's Corleones. We got a little problem with that graphic, but we know for sure that it was Gafambi 1st, Team Major Taylor 2nd, and Acacia in 3rd. And there is the happiest man of all who were here, more than 20,000, John Grant.
You know, Greg, you talk that these guys don't do it for money. These guys spend all year preparing for today. There's no prize money. They don't get paid to go to school to do this. But, you know, what these guys just won is something that you can't buy. Isn't that right, Jason?
No, you can't buy a victory.
No way.
And we both know there's not that much money in bike racing in the Midwest or in the States, and this is a pretty big deal. And these guys won't see these many people at a bike race the rest of their life. And for them, right now, this is the pinnacle, and this is one of the greatest moments of their life. If not, you know, I'm sure they would say the same.
Yeah, because these guys are total rock stars now.
And here is the Borg Warner Trophy for the Little 500. Of course, the best-known Borg Warner Trophy goes to the winner of the Indianapolis 500. Let's go down for a moment and check in on the award ceremony.
As we have it, ladies and gentlemen,
John Grant standing there waiting for his glorious moment to go up on the checkered flag stage to collect this trophy with his teammates.
You'll see him, and they'll also hand the winning bike up there as the team kind of celebrates a tradition in the past. We'll see if it happens today, but they usually hand that bike into the stands or into the crowd.
Ladies and gentlemen, finishing fifth today, Daniel Burns, Chris Ert, Luke Eisenbarger, and Clint Seal.
Well, here in the official results, it looks like Team Corleones finishes third. Team Corleones finishes third.
There they are on their platform, ladies and gentlemen.
That's great to see these guys celebrating so much.
Last year's champions, Daniel Burns of Indianapolis, Chris Ert of Avon, Indiana, Luke Eisenbarger of Indianapolis, and Clint Seal of Indianapolis.
At fourth place, Dodge House, Brad Davies, Patrick Gross, Craig Lukens, and Kevin Moore.
And Dodds House comes from a pretty steep tradition too. We've talked about it a couple times today. They're a residence hall that actually built. They hadn't won a championship yet, so they built a trophy case in hopes of putting a trophy in it. They won in '98.
That's great.
Here's Acacia now, the team in purple. Hats off to Acacia. I feel like they rode strong all day. Their leader, certainly Kevin Baines, he was impressive all day, and the goal was to stay up front. We saw him, and they end up with a podium finish.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Acacia, Robert Allen, secondary English education major from Indianapolis, Ryan Brown, graphic design from South Bend, Tyler Burke from Allison Park, management major, and Kevin Baines, a business finance major of Indianapolis. And here is team major Taylor, Steve Ballinger, an optometry major from Edwardsville, Illinois, Kenneth Burgess, a pre-law student from Los Angeles, Simeon Komosian, a telecommunications major from Trinidad and Tobago, and Julio German from Sleepy Hollow, New York, a business major.
And they've stepped up into being a factor to be reckoned with in the future too, because they've had two strong performances 2 years in a row, and they have a good coaching system. A guy, Rasan Bahati, who helps out with their team, who rides for Saturn Development Team. They have a good thing going. Look for them to come back next year and be strong.
Yeah, you know, I really like the move that the Major Taylor rider made in the last turn. Even though he didn't pull out the victory, he definitely did what he had to do to try to win the race, and that's cool to see.
It was gutsy, wasn't it? Because you could tell, you could feel him knowing that he had to go right there.
And here's John Grant leading his team, Gafambi, onto the stage. The champions of this 53rd running of the Little 500, and there is their winning bike.
Little 500 King Mark Anderson.
They started fourth today, but they finished first.
That's right. You know, it's interesting. You got three of the guys that are pretty much the same size, so I bet they share one bike. And then the fourth rider, who's a little bit shorter, was using one bike, or his bike. So that probably played into their exchange strategy a little bit.
Yeah,
White and red carnation lays signifying the championship team, and the Borg Warner Trophy being presented, and all of them touch it and holding it and embracing it as if it were the Stanley Cup.
And John being the top dog, I'm pretty sure that he had his own bike. He got to decide where he wanted the seat height, and that's where he sat for him. And that's where mechanics come into play too. A lot of times you'll take a bike and you'll get it set up just for John at the end of the race.
How glorious a moment for Team Gafambi. They took the checkered flag. Now they're on that checkered floor, the stage for the victors.
And this is a tradition like none other, something that's been going on for over 50 years now. We'll see it continue for another 50 years. A lot of people to thank and a lot of athletes to thank today for their performance. John certainly stands out as well as the rest of the Gafambi team does.
Yeah, you know, it's just so great to see so many people here cheering on their teams, and the involvement of the university and the community and all the volunteers. I mean, it's really events like this that you know, makes cycling so great. It makes, it makes everything so incredible to be part of this.
Yeah, it does. It's almost like a grassroots effort because it's different from what you're used to. It's not a U.S. Postal team with guys with big contracts. It's guys out here that actually sacrifice a lot and train every day for this.
Yeah.
It's also what makes college great. So some final thoughts from you, Jason Sonneborn?
Well, I think the race kind of unfolded as we might have anticipated. We said if it was going to be a field sprint, we liked Gafambi's chances. We liked John's chances right from the start. Corleone's, they wanted to string it out and get away. I think the strongest sprinter might have won today.
Yeah, Jason, I think you're right. It's really exciting just to see how much involvement, how much energy is here. I can't believe that, they can pull off an event like this every year, and it's just great to see this.
So the 53rd running of the Little 500 here at Indiana University and Bill Armstrong Stadium comes to a close. The Student Foundation once again will have raised tens of thousands of dollars for student scholarships, and a team has won for the first time. Team Gafambi, led by a brilliant sprint by its leader, John Grant, who took it all on the last lap. It has been a glorious day for cycling, for sport, and for the college life here at Indiana University. For Jason Sonneborn, Dylan Casey, and Anne-Marie Bonas, I'm Greg Lewis. Thanks for joining us here on HDNet. Bye-bye.